Hey, what's going on, Luke here? And we're here to do a recap, a review, whatever you want to call it, of State of Origin Game 2. Now, straight up, I just want to say it was absolute annihilation of the Queensland Maroons. There's no other way to put it. It was an actual murder. It was terrible to watch if you're a Queensland fan. If you're a New South Wales fan, I've never felt anything like that. Sure, we've had a couple serious wins in the last couple of years. I mean, last year, obviously, we didn't, but previous years, we had 2 in a row, and that was good. That was nice. Obviously, we got the win, but I've never witnessed such dominance from a side. Now, I know you're probably saying, oh, well, New South Wales has had some pretty good teams in the past, but I was sort of too young to either recognise it, or I was too young and I wasn't even born when it was happening. So I didn't really get to witness any of that. I didn't get to witness all your Brad Fittlers and Andrew Johns and such. I was kind of too young. But now I'm getting to see your Nathan Clearys and your James Tedesco's, Latrell Mitchell, Tom Trbojevic. What a fantastic side. Now, going into the game, I had full confidence in my match preview. I said that I think New South Wales was going to win. I thought they were going to win 13 plus. I thought we were going to see something similar to this. It wasn't exactly the 50-6 win that we had in game 1, but it was pretty bloody close, let's be honest. Now, there was a couple of tries that, like, Cameron Murray dropped the ball. Obviously, there was the one that got called back for, once again, Cameron Murray again was offside. And there was another one where Tedesco was nearly on the end of a ball from, I think Nathan Cleary went through at the start of the game. So there was a couple of times that New South Wales could have scored some more tries, and they're probably the ones that came off in the first game. So it very nearly could have been, you know, a 40-50 point drubbing there. But look, for me, I think the biggest takeaway from this game was the fact that New South Wales not only had the motivation, but just the talent. There was just a mismatch. It really was a mismatch. Last year, this is like what it should have been last year. Last year, the Queensland side was arguably worse than the side that they've got right now. But New South Wales, their side as well wasn't that great. Obviously, Latrell was injured, Tom Trbojevic was injured, and how good have they been in this series? And it just shows how much of a difference having them in the side is compared to not having them when we had Gutherson and Jack White in the centres last year. So Kurt Capewell, he's definitely been found out in the centres. Gagai has done absolutely nothing. Let's just go through the Queensland side, because I feel like that's where we're going to have the most fun talking about. So, pretty much the whole backline for Queensland was absolutely terrible. Kyle Feldt, look, he wasn't as bad as what I think people are making out to be. Obviously, like at the end of the game, he should have scored. He didn't end up scoring. Well, actually, I'm not going to say he should have scored, because Brian To'o, that's a fantastic effort. But look, he was the most likely to score, and he didn't end up scoring. And the rest of the game, like, they weren't scoring points through his side of the field. They were leaking points over the side of Capewell and Xavier Coates. And that's exactly what they needed to do. And that says something about Kyle Feldt and Gagai, the fact that they still had Latrell Mitchell and Brian To'o, and Latrell scored from an intercept, and that was the only points that they conceded on that side of the field. The rest were all on the other side. Addo-Carr scored 2, Tom Trbojevic scored 1. It was pretty much all down the right-hand side, and I feel like New South Wales could have scored more, even through the line breaks and stuff. Like the chances that I'm talking about before with Cameron Murray, and also like when Nathan Cleary went through, they were both down the right-hand side of the field. So the defense for Queensland on their right side of the field, it actually wasn't too bad. It was just the left side of the field that really let them down. And that's what happens when you have guys who are playing out of position. You got Xavier Coates, who was pretty much the third stringer. Obviously, the whole Mulatala incident, we'll talk about that at a later date, but what a fuss that was. But you went from having Reece Walsh in the side of Valentine Holmes in that side, which I think really would have shored things up a lot in terms of defense for just that side of the field. Maybe Reece Walsh would have got exposed in a different way. I don't know. We're not going to know that because it didn't happen. And then, obviously, Mulatala would have come in. I'm not sure how he would have went in defense. I don't think he's like a super strong defender, but I think he probably would have been better than Coates. And then, obviously, Coates comes in the last minute, and they had a field day last game against him. How's he supposed to do it with, like, hours of preparation? It's just, it was a crazy situation for Queensland. However, I feel like regardless who would have been there, I think New South Wales would have absolutely destroyed them. I will say, though, in terms of the guys coming back into the side, like Christian Welch, I think he was really good. I say coming back, I know he just had a head knock really early on, but I thought he was really good for them. I thought Papali'i was pretty good. And just like the Queensland forward pack in general, I thought they really aimed up at the start of the game. But for me, within the first 5-10 minutes, after that little flurry of literally the first set, I thought, oh, here we go, Queensland might be on. But then the next set, New South Wales called their way back into it. It's literally the second set of the game. But you know what I'm saying. Like, New South Wales got a bit of a roll on and sort of just had a normal set. Like, Queensland weren't rushing out. They weren't driving people back. And all it took was literally like 1 or 2 sets. I was like, yeah, New South Wales got this one. And then, like we were talking about before, when Nathan Cleary went through and had that little half chance, I was like, all right, well, they're already going through now. All right, Queensland's little flurry's over. That lasted 5 to 10 minutes. Queensland are gone. They're absolute gone. It's just a matter of how much New South Wales win by. And to be honest, I actually thought New South Wales might have scored a couple more tries. Like I was saying, there was a few chances, but the fact that Queensland got close to actually scoring, it is a little bit surprising. Obviously, Xavier Coates in the corner, great effort from Tom Trbojevic, and then obviously the Brian To'o effort as well. And like I sort of touched on earlier, I think that's what it comes down to. Obviously, New South Wales, even in like previous years, they've had the better team on paper, and they got away with it a couple times in like 2018, 2019. They weren't playing fantastic, but you can argue that the team was better on paper. But it still sort of went down to the wire. Went to the last game. In 2019, obviously Tedesco scored right at the end and scored. And there was still a mismatch in terms of talent, but just Queensland had that motivation. Whereas this year going into it, after Queensland embarrassed them last year, I just feel like not only did New South Wales have the talent this year, and also that was like a mismatch in talent. Let's not get that wrong. Like, let's not get this twisted. Queensland, it was not a good side. Like, if you actually put them in the NRL, I think they would really struggle to make the 8. I'm just putting that out there. But in terms of just in previous years, Queensland have been able to match the intensity and just the passion. Whereas this year, New South Wales are there. And not only did they have the better side, they also had more passion and more motivation. And Cherry Evans even touched on it in the press conference. And honestly, I think that's a bad sign that your captain's out there talking like that and saying, yeah, I think they just got more motivation. And it's like, what do you mean? You're literally down 1-0. How can you not have motivation? I don't understand him talking. And it's not like this is the Queensland side that were, winning 8 in a row. Maybe you could look at them and say, yeah, that's probably why they're lacking a little bit of motivation. But that's probably what puts them in a different class to this sort of side that's there now. Just even on a talent-wise, even like for New South Wales talent-wise, that Queensland side that went on that huge run, they had the mentality of like, all right, well, we've won 6. We got to win 7. Like, we're not losing. We got to win 8. We got to win 9. We got to win 10. And then they lost that 1 year, and that was like a huge embarrassment for them. They came out the next year and annihilated New South Wales. So it just shows the mentality where you've got that sort of side. And Cherry Evans was a part of that sort of side in the back end of it, but he wasn't an integral side. And funnily enough, when they lost, he was actually the halfback. So maybe it's a Cherry Evans thing. I don't know. Cameron Munster even said some questionable things at halftime. Speaking of Cherry Evans and Cameron Munster, I think they've been super disappointing, especially Cameron Munster. Now, the rest of the spine, I didn't really have high hopes for McCullough or Valentine Holmes. You already seen what Valentine Holmes dishes up. He's okay, he's solid, but he's probably not a fullback. He's definitely not a fullback. At least at Origin level, definitely not a fullback. But they don't really have anyone else to pick, so he's kind of just there. And McCullough, similar situation. They didn't really have anyone else to pick. I think Ben Hunt's your best hooker to play in that position, but I don't know, I thought they looked the best when Ben Hunt was on the field. And even at times, they played both of them, McCullough and Ben Hunt, in the field, which begs the question, why would you not just play Cameron Munster at fullback, keep Valentine Holmes on the wing, then you have Ben Hunt in the halves? If McCullough's going to play the whole game anyways, pretty much, just play Ben Hunt in the bloody halves. I think he looked the most threatening. He looked the best sort of half player on the field. He wasn't even playing in the halves. Cameron Munster, very, very disappointing. There was all the talk, even from myself. I looked at Cameron Munster, I've seen him in grand finals, and I was like, yeah, this guy is a big match player. He did it last year when the back's against the wall. He did it. But this year, he's done absolutely nothing. And maybe he's benefiting from playing in such a strong Storm side that he's not sort of getting exposed a little bit more than what he is, because it just feels like he's super out of form. And yeah, he really got exposed this Origin series. Cherry Evans, I've never really seen him step up for Queensland. He's always kind of been pretty good, but like he's been okay, but he's had the other guys around him to step up, whether it's Cameron Munster or Callum Ponga or Cameron Smith or Thurston, whoever it is at the time. He's always had other players to step up and sort of steer the ship around, whereas he sort of just plodded along. Similar to what Nathan Cleary sort of had his criticisms for the past years. He's been in winning sides, but he's never really been the reason that they won. And I thought also, just on Nathan Cleary, I keep sort of going all over the place here, but just for the Blues, I need to talk about them, seeing as I pretty much just talked about Queensland. So let's touch on the Blues here for a second. Nathan Cleary, I thought he was really good. Jerome Lowe was a little bit quiet, but he's just doing his part. He's just doing what he needs to do. He's not trying to overplay his sort of part in the side. He just needs to get the ball to Latrell and get the ball to Nathan Cleary and just do his thing. And that's exactly what he's been doing. But Nathan Cleary, I thought this was one of his better performances. Obviously, it wasn't a man of the match performance I was kind of expecting, but when you got so many good players around you, it's very hard to be man of the match. And speaking of the man of the match, the official one was James Tedesco. For me, it was Latrell Mitchell. Now, I don't have a problem with James Tedesco getting man of the match. He took so many good carries. His flick pass to Addo-Carr was really nice. He had the last pass for the first Addo-Carr try. He definitely had some really good moments in the game, and he made heaps of meters. It was just a classic Tedesco display, to be honest with you. And also, after game one, there was a lot of talk about, oh, he's getting overshadowed by Trbojevic and Latrell and that sort of stuff. But I thought Teddy, he really stood up in this game, and he definitely was one of New South Wales' best. But for me, Latrell, he just made all the big plays at the start of the game, and he definitely got the Blues on the front foot. And even when Queensland were attacking, I thought he just killed the game for Queensland. So when it was 0-0, he stripped the ball and they end up scoring like 2 plays later or whatever. So that's the first huge play, and that's a game-changing play. The second one was also when Queensland, they had 6 to go, they're attacking the line, it's 6-0 to the Blues, looking to hit back. If they do hit back, who knows what happens, but Latrell picks out the intercept, goes length to the field, and all of a sudden there's 2 huge plays by Latrell Mitchell to start the game. So in the end, obviously the Blues ended up winning very, very comfortably, but to start the game, Latrell Mitchell was on fire. And I know, Trbojevic ended up playing very well, Tedesco played pretty well, and the rest of the boys, they all just played really, really well this side. But without Latrell Mitchell having that solid start, who knows where this game goes? Because it's a Suncorp Stadium. I feel like they were getting the rub of the green Queensland. They were getting a lot of 6-again calls, even just penalties that I thought were a bit iffy. They were getting a lot of the calls, in my opinion. New South Wales getting none, but it was just the fact that New South Wales was so far ahead that nobody really cares. But yeah, Latrell Mitchell definitely got them onto the front foot, and he was just unreal for them. He was so, so good. And it's just crazy to think he did get dropped from this side. And I know there's going to be calls for him to go and play centre for the Rabbitohs, but he needs to play fullback at club level. Similar situation to Tom Trbojevic. Like, Tom Trbojevic, at rep level, probably going to play centers, wing, most likely center. He can sort of roam around. But club level, he's always going to be a fullback. Like, I know the argument is, oh, well, Latrell, he's the best center in the world if he wants to. Same with Tom Trbojevic. But you can't pay big money for them to play center. You need them playing fullback. You need them getting their hands on the ball all the time. And they can only play center and get space with the ball because they've got so many good players around them, and New South Wales are just absolutely dominant at the moment, so they can do whatever they want. They can roam around if they want. If things are a little bit closer, maybe not so much. Maybe you wouldn't see as much from them. But yeah, look, just a class performance all around by the Blues. Queensland, they've got a lot of questions to ask and not many answers. Like, even when I think about it on paper, the only solution I can sort of come up with was the one I talked about earlier, where Munster goes to fullback. But even then, like, you're weakening one position to strengthen another. But I don't know. Look, Cherry Evans, I don't think he should be there going forward, but for the rest of the series, you need to pick him because Sam Walker's not ready, and apart from him, who do you pick? Like, your previous guys, like your Ash Taylors and that, they've just dipped in form big time. So there's no one who's knocking down the door for Queensland to even come into this halves position, because guys like Corey Norman and stuff, you're not going to pick them either. So I think you have to stick with Cherry Evans. He is the captain, but yeah, for the rest of the side, I don't know where you go. Their backline, obviously, Mulatalo tried to play, and they'll probably try and play him in Game 3. And even if he does play, I don't think he adds too much to the side. He's probably pretty similar to Xavier Coates, maybe just marginally better defense. But yeah, just in terms of that, I don't know how you stop the Blues. That's what it more comes down to. New South Wales in the past, to stop the Queensland dominance, they were picking plays purely just to stop players. But I don't know. Like, Queensland don't have a Josh Morris you can pick to try and stop Greg Inglis. Like, who are you going to pick to stop Tom Trbojevic? And even if you get one, they're not going to stop Latrell Mitchell. So if you stop one side, you just go to the other. That's just how good this Blue side is. And I know I don't want to get ahead of myself and talk about the Blues dynasty or whatnot, but the Blues, like, in terms of talent-wise, they should go on a run. Whether they do, it's all up to them. And I think it all comes down to mentality. The Queensland side, they had that mentality. They had similar... When you hear Michael Jordan talk about it, like, everything was personal, and they didn't want to let down the team. They didn't want to let down the state. And everything was just so, like, personal to them. And I feel like that's what New South Wales had this year. Whether they'll have it next year, though, after, such a dominant performance in the first and second game, and potentially the third game going into the next series, New South Wales going to have that motivation. I don't know, but I think they'll definitely have it for Game 3 in front of a home crowd. I hope it's a home crowd anyways. I'm supposed to be going to the game in Sydney. Whether it happens or not, it's been tossed up in terms of a game going to Canberra or Newcastle. Or I'm sure Queensland will be after it. I'm sure Melbourne will be after it. But it all comes down to this lockdown stuff. But fingers crossed, happens in Sydney. I'll be there, and I'll be there to witness a clean sweep. Anyway, guys, leave in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on the game? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? I suppose it depends on whether you're a New South Welshman or a Queensland. But I thought it was a pretty good game personally. Just even in terms of quality, Queensland sort of gave New South Wales for long enough for it to be somewhat competitive before New South Wales really took over. And like I said, Latrell Mitchell for me, man of the match, came up with too many big plays at big crucial moments in the game to not be man of the match. So yeah, man of the match Latrell. But yeah, great game. Leave in the comment section below what are your thoughts on the game. But that's where I'm going to end this one. If you happen to enjoy the video, make sure you go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Also use the notification bell. It's super important, and it's been very clear that it's super important. As in the last couple of videos, I don't think they hit the sub boxes because views are very low considering what they have been previously. So I'm assuming it's sub boxes. Use the notification bell and don't miss the videos. It's just as simple as that. Notification bell. You'll be notified immediately. You can click on the video. You can leave a little first comment. You can leave a like. Do whatever you want to do. But just use the notification bell. And also just make sure you subscribe too. Also, give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. It's Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. It's Mr. Luke just for Facebook, but for everything else, it's Mr. Luke and YT. So go ahead and give me a follow, give me a like, do all that sort of stuff. And stay tuned for more content on the channel. Obviously, there's no Origin for a couple of weeks, but there's going to be plenty of stuff to talk about. The NRL NRL will be back, and obviously Game 3 is still going to happen. So plenty of stuff to talk about in that regards. I might even do a couple of videos breaking down what's wrong with Queensland. But yeah, stay tuned for more content on the channel. That's it remaining in this one. I'll see you later. See you.